We are connected with divine intelligence. Everything on the planet and our whole being, every aspect of you is part of everything in all of the universes. You have the universe living in your organs, an organism, and that intelligence is in sync with the intelligence of the universe. And the universe is to assist you, and you are in charge of all of this. Life is art, and you are the artist. And you are creating your own art. You're creating the story of your life. And if you don't like something in your life, then change your story. You created it. You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled Conversations with a Sorcerer, Your Cosmic Seniority. Now we're going to go back, and at least in this episode, I'm going to go back and talk about a conversation that I had with Don Javier, a sorcerer. But in this episode, I want to talk about cosmic seniority. And what that is that's your power. That is your power to create your seniority, your cosmic seniority. That is your power to create while you are on the planet. And if you're not getting what you want in life and you're not creating what you want, then you are misusing your seniority. So if you'd like to be more, do more, and have more in life, let's literally start working on your cosmic seniority. Keep listening. Okay, this episode on cosmic seniority goes back to a conversation that I had with Don Javier. It was dinner one night, probably around 2021, late 2021, 2022. And there was someone else in that conversation that was dealing with someone in their family that was ill. And I'm going to share many of the things that Don Javier said, and then I'm going to go into cosmic seniority. So in that conversation, where the recording picked up, is when Don Javier was talking about disease. And he said, there's no such thing as diseases. People create disease in the mind, and they create it in the mind, and it manifests in the body. And then he went on to talk about, well, of course, there are environmental factors. People eat junk food and they eat different things, and it's lifestyle for a lot of people, which cause the disease in the body. But notice it's being created not by the universe, but by the individual and their individual choices and actions. And he talked about junk food, and I just say this as an addendum to the podcast. He said this for many years, look at the labels on your food. And if you don't understand the label, put it back on the shelf. If you don't know what's in that food, and now I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read, and I don't know if it's just, online propaganda, but Gatorade has some resemblance of like radiator fluid or something like that in it as one of the ingredients. And now RFK, and many people have been doing this for many years, RFK is trying to fight all of the color additives in food and all the preservatives and all these different kinds of things in food. So back to the main point was, if you can't read the label, put it back on the shelf. Because if you can't read the label, you don't need to be putting it back. You don't need to be putting that in your body. Then he went into, and he said, quote here, we are connected with divine intelligence. And I'm going to actually read verbatim what he said. These are his words, not mine. And then I will obviously indicate where it's my addendum or something that I want to add. He said, we are connected with divine intelligence. Everything on the planet and our whole being, every aspect of you is part of everything in all of the universes. When you think about that, that's really powerful. And I've talked about this in other places on the podcast. Everything on the planet and in our whole being, every aspect of you is a part of everything in the universes. He didn't just say universe, he said universes, because science is now speculating that we live in a multiverse. There's more than one universe. He goes on to say, everything on the planet is within you. Everything in the universe is within you. Ponder that for a moment. Everything on the planet is within me, and everything in the universes is within me also. Now, I know that I've said before, I did an episode a while back where I talked about the metaphor of going to the ocean, and you take a drop of water out of the ocean, and then, you could say, well, this drop of water is not the totality of the ocean, but guess what? That drop of water has the same chemical composition as the totality of the ocean. So we often say things like that, like, we are just a drop in the ocean. And I've said that before, but if you look at it from a different perspective, the whole ocean is also in the drop. So even though your physical body is in the ocean of the universe is also in the drop. The universe is also in you. We are the drop. Even though many of us work from separation, meaning we don't think we're connected, we are connected to every single bit of the universe, and we're connected through consciousness. Don Javier went on to say, and that means that we are holy. We are part of the holiness, and we have to function in a cohesive way with that, in a harmonious way. And what he's really saying there with that is when he says we have to function in a harmonious way, there are laws of the universe, physics, there are laws of the universe. And if we're not functioning by the laws of the universe, then we're miscreating. We're not functioning in harmony and in unison with the universe. We have to function within the laws of the universe. And that's being in communion with the universe as well. Now, remember, this was started in a conversation, somebody talking about healing. And he went on to say, when we do that, meaning when we're working in harmony with the universe, when we do that, we have the power to heal because we have the divine intelligence within us. And then he went on to ask, and there were probably, I don't know, this was dinner one night, maybe 6, 8 of us there. And he looked over at someone and he goes, how many times did your heart beat today? He said, can you tell me what your kidneys are doing right now? Can you tell me how you literally keep your lungs breathing? And he went on to say, and of course, no, we can't because this is divine intelligence doing that. But he went on to say, and I love, love, love this comment. And this is for people that are working on health, wellness, healing, but anything, money, it can be anything. He said, you have the universe living in your organs, an organism, and that intelligence is in sync with the intelligence of the universe. And the universe is to assist you, and you are in charge of all of this. Now, let me repeat that again, and I'm going to take it apart just a little bit. You have the universe living in your organs, an organism, and that intelligence is in sync with the intelligence of the universe. And the universe is to assist you, and you are in charge of all of this. Now, what that means in layman's terms is, let's say that you're healthy, extremely healthy, and everything's functioning perfectly in your body. Well, you're not creating that per se. It's from the consciousness of the universe. Everything is consciousness. But then he went on to say, as I said a couple of minutes ago, you are in charge of that. So we can have a perfectly functioning body, but we are in charge, even though the universe is a medium, the body's a medium for the universe, we are in charge of the body, meaning our conscious thought, our human identity. So even though we have the intelligence of the universe within us, and we can use that to heal, to make more money, to whatever it is we want to create in life, we're in charge of that. And then what we do is we get into our human ego, our identity. People don't like me. I'm a horrible person. I don't deserve to be healthy. Money's hard for me to make. All these things that we individually get into. And then what we do, metaphorically speaking, is we shut the door on the universe. Now, of course, the consciousness is still running through us because we are alive, but we've shut the door for the universe to do its work on us because we are in charge of our own being. Also, when we're doing this, when we are in the ego, we are not in our cosmic seniority. That's my comment, not his. So what he was saying is we are in charge of all of this. Basically, what he's saying is we are in charge of all of our conscious thought. And the universe, because we have free will, cannot control that. Now, here's where he went on to say, we have to become in charge of our own seniority. And he went on to say, which is our own energy, your power, and that changes everything. Now, again, I'm going to repeat that. We have to become in charge of our own seniority, which is our own energy, your power, and that changes everything. So what he's saying is that you have to become in charge of your power, and the power that you have because you're connected to the universe and the universe is in you and you are in the universe, that is your power. And when we recognize that, when we recognize that we're currently, in the planet, we're on the planet right now, but we're not of this planet. Think about that. We're on planet Earth. You right now listening, you are on planet Earth physically, or you probably would not be listening, I don't suppose, to this podcast. Because if you're not on the planet, you wouldn't care about the podcast and you would know a hell of a lot more than me. You are on the planet, and literally the universe is in you, but you determine how you're going to affect the universe in you. So the seniority is not even recognizing, as I was saying, we recognize that we are on the planet, but the seniority is truly recognizing that we are not of this planet. Please let this soak in. We are on the planet, but we are not of the planet. And if you're living on the planet, getting wrapped up with all the things on the planet, which is your 3D ego, you're shutting the door to your cosmic seniority because you're not of the planet, which is where we find our cosmic seniority, meaning that, hey, this is not my home. I'm just visiting. It's like I'm on vacation. I am just visiting for a bit. So when we recognize that this isn't our home, we're just incarnated here. This is our point of reference in the universe, and we're just visiting. That then allows us to bring back and start exploring our seniority. And I've often said in other episodes before, it's important that we know ourselves as soul. And that would also be knowing your seniority. Because see, if we knew ourselves as soul, we wouldn't get into the crap we get into. This is my commentary on his comment, his sharing, is what destroys your seniority is the crap you get into. The fear, the scarcity, the 3D world. Trump did this, Ukraine did that, the economy did this, Putin did that, Xi Jinping did, or whatever, did this. That's all 3D stuff. That's not cosmic seniority. Cosmic seniority is knowing, as I said twice now, that I'm currently on this planet, but I am not of this planet. I am an eternal divine being. And then seniority is remembering that you are that cosmic being. Because think about it this way. What decisions in life would you make differently if you truly knew at a soulful level, I mean, at the core of your being, you knew that you were a reflection of the power of all consciousness in the universe? Would you then worry about money? Would you then struggle in relationships? Would you then get caught up in 3D crap that you get caught up in? No, not at all. Because the seniority in you, the soulful seniority, knows these things aren't part of me. They're part of the 3D experience, but they're not part of me, the soul. So we have to work from that seniority, meaning you brought it with you. You brought the seniority with you as a result of even incarnating on the planet. So a question for you is, ask yourself, with whatever's going on in your life, because see, you're listening to the podcast for a reason. You're listening because you want to be more, do more, and have more. And if you had everything you wanted, or you had your life the way you wanted it, you wouldn't be listening. Why? There's no reason to. So a question that, and again, this is Don Javier's reflection, or this is the way he asked the question, look at your life and ask yourself, what caused me to create all of this? What caused me to create all of this? And it can be divorce, it can be bankruptcy, it can be perfect health, it can be a life of loneliness, it can be a life of having an amazing partner, whatever it is for you. But take a step back and say, what did I do to manifest this into my life? And then Don Javier went on to say, with what you have manifested and what you have created, to ask yourself, in which way did I manage my energy and seniority? So let's say that you are in the middle of a bankruptcy, only as an example, okay? Many of us blame the externals, the economy, AI, the tariffs, whatever it might be. And Don Javier is saying, if that's what you created, take a step back and say, in which way did I manage my energy and seniority? Because the way you managed your energy and seniority is what's created the outcomes that you have in your life. So we tend to blame the externals, not even recognizing that we have the seniority, the cosmic power, the cosmic ability. We're born creators. We're born manifestors. And you could say, well, that's not true because a baby doesn't manifest. A 2-day-old baby does not manifest. And I'm using that example because that's what I asked Don Javier many years ago when he shared all this with me. I said, hey, Don, if we're born, I call him like Don for short for Don Javier. Hey, Don, if we are creators from the second we arrive, which is what he told me. I said, how does a one day old baby create? And I was looking at it from the wrong perspective. And he said, that one day old baby creates because look what it's created in the parents. It's created joy. It's created heart expansion. It's created openness. It's created possibility. It's created new revelations. This infant can be one day old and it's already creating in other people. Or maybe somebody who didn't want to have the baby, and maybe then it created fear. Maybe it created shame. And I think you get the point. The point is, the second we pop out of the womb, we're always creating. But now what we want to do is use our awareness of our conscious seniority to consciously create the life of our dreams, whether it be moving to another country, a new job, a new home, whatever it might be. I want to go on here. This person in this conversation was asking about illness, which is what started the entire conversation. In my humble opinion, what I'm sharing with you in this episode, if somebody told me of all the episodes I've created, I could only keep, let's say, 5 episodes. And 5 episodes would define my life and the podcast. The message in this episode would be one of the 5 episodes, in my opinion, because everything is about seniority and awareness of the seniority. But when we don't create what we want and we don't have what we want, and then we try to do it externally, we have no awareness of our seniority. So he wanted to talk about doctors. And in the Secret podcast, I will share my thoughts on that. And I had a stroke and heart failure in 2020. So I think I'm more than qualified to talk about doctors, the medical profession, and how it steals our seniority. How it actually, one of my students that was an MD, she was an MD, very successful national level MD, said to me, and she's in a former podcast episode maybe 2 years ago, how the current medical model keeps people in healing mediocrity. Think about that. The current medical model keeps people in healing mediocrity. And it keeps people in healing mediocrity because the current medical model takes away your seniority. Now, he went 2 places in this conversation. One was about doctors, about MDs. And he said many doctors are empowered by their patients. And he said the patient believes the doctor 100% and then gives all their power to the doctor. And in that moment, they've given all their seniority to the doctor. Now, in complete transparency, that's what I want to talk about when I had the heart failure and stroke in 2020. I want to talk about seniority and my journey in a hospital twice in 2020 and how doctors tried to take my seniority away from me and how I reclaimed my seniority. And again, that'll be in this secret podcast episode. Don Javier went on to say, his words, not mine, okay? They are, meaning doctors, they are not healing a lot of people. Most even know they are not helping a lot of people, but they keep doing it. And he went on to say there are good doctors and there are bad doctors. There are good healers and there are bad healers. And the bad ones are the ones who think they know more than the divine intelligence inside of you. I'll repeat it again. The bad healers and the bad doctors are the ones who think they know more than the divine intelligence in you. The divine intelligence in you, the seniority in you, knows eons beyond any traditional modern medicine, beyond any doctor. But again, I want to point out, you might be thinking, well, Jim, I don't need any healing right now. You might not need any right now, but I guarantee at some point in your life, you're going to need healing. But this doesn't just apply to healing. It applies to all aspects in our life, which is why we have to become aware and start living from our seniority, not our 3D world. He talked about how we give our seniority away. And his languaging was this. It's pretty humorous, and he was just saying this not to judge anyone, just humorously. But he said many times when people go to a doctor and the doctor says, and by the way, their divine intelligence has kept them alive for 50 years, and now they are air quotes sick, they go to the doctor. And again, their divine intelligence has kept them alive all their life. Now they go to the doctor, and a doctor says you have stage 1 cancer or whatever it might be. And people literally go into then, OMG. That's why I'm laughing, because Don Javier was saying OMG. And he said it 3 times. He goes, so when people get bad news from a doctor, they go into OMG, OMG, OMG. And then he says they give themselves to that, meaning they've thrown their seniority out the window and they give themselves into their fear and their OMG. And then that is what they are creating, not even remembering or knowing they have the seniority to heal. And that very same seniority has kept them alive for a lifetime. And this is why he said earlier, which I alluded to a bit, we are in charge. You are in charge. So look out in the world right now. Look where you live. Look what country you live in. Look at the economy. Look at the political structures. Look at all the world. And you might think, well, I'm just a little bitty person. I can't influence these people. Maybe you can't, but what you can influence is you and how you hold your attention and your thinking. Why? Because you are in charge. He went on to say, is we gain more seniority. That's why we come here. So we gain more seniority. That's why we come here, because we come to learn about literally not giving ourselves away to the 3D, not giving ourselves away to the ego. And candidly, it's a lifetime lesson I've found, but most people don't even have any awareness about this. If you look out in the world, look out right now. I mean, this is what, June of 2025. Look at the chaos in the world and all these kind of things. These things that are going on in the world are not in you unless you, through your own choice, choose to bring these things into you. He went on to say, we are the best healers. We are born this way. We have the right to be healthy. We have the right to be well, but only when we're in charge of our own seniority. And he went on to say is we come with that. We come with the seniority. And he went on to say, which I mentioned before, is that people come to the planet, and a metaphor he's used before is we come to the planet, and the second we're born, it's like somebody puts a bag over our head, and we forget everything else about where we came from and who we are. When we do that, we give up our seniority. But he said something that may even concretize this more for you. And this is a truism. He said, we don't come to the planet with beliefs. We come with knowing our seniority. And then what happens is knowing our seniority gets negated, dropped, or forgotten, because then we move into the learned beliefs. Because you did not come to the planet with any beliefs whatsoever. You came with what John Locke called, the British philosopher John Locke, called tabula rasa. You came a blank slate of 3D human ego, and you and the indoctrination you've experienced is what has imprinted the blank slate, and you learn that through socialization. He went on talking about technology, and he said, we are a higher technology than all the technology on the planet. We are healers by nature. Even before we are born, we carry that within us. We carry a level of consciousness higher than all the technology on the planet. And when you get into your doubt and your fear and your OMG, 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 you give all of your seniority and you give all of your power away. And we cannot allow the 3D world to drain us and take our power away from us. On that commentary, what he just said, no judgments on my part. And of course, I probably don't know you personally. Look at how much of your seniority you've given away to humanity, to CNN, to Fox News, to Reuters, to AP, to Donald Trump, to Vladimir Putin, to Elon Musk, to your neighbor dumping the trash out, in the driveway, all these kind of things. Think about how much of your seniority you've given away. And then you wonder why you're not creating the life that you want. Like Don Javier said, we carry it all within us, the health, the money, the life. Think about that, the health, the money, the life force. Think about the body that you're in, the container. This container carries the life force. That life force you carry within you is your seniority, but we forget about it. And then we stay in fear and we stay in worry. And then he goes on to say, and this is really powerful, then we drain ourselves. And when we drain ourselves with the external world taking our seniority away, then we don't have enough personal power and seniority to call upon to heal us. So it's vital that we not get into things in the external world, because that shuts the door on the seniority. And then when we need healing, we don't have access to the seniority. Basically, to paraphrase, what that means is be in this world, but not of this world. And he said, when people operate from what I'm sharing now, people get faster results, much faster results. Why? Because when they're working from the seniority in them, whether it be for health, money, relationships, what they're working from is everything is part of the divine intelligence. Everything. And in that conversation that night, he went on to tap the dinner table, and his fork and his cell phone, and talking about everything in the universe. Everything is part of that divine intelligence. But we give our power away to the little bitty 3D ego. Now, he went on to say, and I've said this before on other episodes, he says, matter creates matter from matter. And since we are in matter, we can create matter. I'm going to say that again. I think it's really powerful. And I'll explain what this means. Matter creates from matter. And since we are in matter, we can create matter. So because you are in matter, you can create on this planet that is matter. But if you're not in matter, you cannot create on this planet. This is why I'm making this up, but I'm being kind of serious. As an example, an archangel, so to speak, or energetic beings that are not physical, that's why they cannot co-create on the planet, because you've got to be in matter to be able to co-create. And then he went on to say, we are co-creating with the universe every single moment of every single day. We are in charge. And then he goes on to say, life is art and you are the artist. And you are creating your own art. You're creating the story of your life. And if you don't like something in your life, then change your story. You created it. If you don't like something in your life, change the story. You created it. You're the one who created the story. And you created the story by giving your seniority away. He went on, don't attach to the past. No matter what happens, do not attach to the past. Everything's going to be okay. And he went on to say, and this is a phrase that he learned from me, is kick the bucket. When I mentioned that years ago, he's like, what does that mean? He's from Mexico. And he's like, I never heard that phrase before. And I said, kick the bucket means dying, transitioning, leaving the planet. So now he often says kick the bucket. But he says, even if we kick the bucket, what we're going to do is integrate back in the higher mind. And he went on to say, and I think it's comforting when you hear it in this kind of way, he went on to say that we've all done this many times before. We've all kicked the bucket many times before. We've all integrated back in the higher mind many times before. And it's going to happen many times again, because life is all about transitions. And he went on to ask those of us there, do you want to evolve or do you want to devolve? By the way, devolve, that's his word, but I don't, is that a word, devolve? But he goes, do you want to evolve or do you want to devolve? And that is your choice because you are in charge. And he went on to say, I want to be, and he's 72 years old and as strong and as active as a 25-year-old. When I've been on family vacation with him, he will often take a small rebounder with him, a Bellicon bouncer. I have watched that dude, 72 years old, a shaman, bounce at 145 beats a minute for literally an hour and a half, nonstop. And the guy's 72. Most 25-year-olds can't even do that. And he's bouncing. I mean, just drenched in sweat when he's done. But he's bouncing at 145 beats a minute. And I know how many beats per minute because I asked him, how many beats per minute is that music you're listening to? And I watched him do it for an hour and a half. And the guy's 72 years old. And he went on to say in this conversation, and we'll start wrapping up with your transformational takeaway. He goes, I want to be at a stage of well-being to connect with divine intelligence. And he goes, don't take me wrong. I will die and I will leave this body. But while I'm here, why would I be wasting my energy on something useless? Think about that. So where do you waste your energy and seniority on something useless? And what is useless to the soul is what Putin did today, what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is today, what the gold price is today, what the economy is today, what Madonna did today, what Elon Musk did today, what Jeff Bezos did today, what Mark Zuckerberg did today. It doesn't matter. You're giving your seniority away on things that are useless, and you're investing your energy in these things, and you're literally, as I said, closing the door on your seniority. So, do you want to evolve or devolve? Okay, so your transformational takeaways. I've got one here that I want to share. And this is back from what we just talked about, is he said, matter creates from matter. And since we are in matter, we can create matter. Listen to that. Since we are in matter, we can create matter, which means money, homes, cars, whatever you want. We are co-creating with the universe. And then he went on to say, many times we co-create the OMG in our life, and then we go into the OMG and we give all of our seniority away. So what he was asking is, do you want to co-create with matter in the life of your dreams? And you've got to do that by recognizing your seniority, that you are on this planet, but not of this planet. Or do you want to co-create in your OMG mentality? The choice is yours. Now, if you'd like to hear my thoughts on this about how I use my seniority to heal, then what you may want to do is go over and listen to my secret podcast. Go to jimfortin.com/insiders, jimfortin.com/insiders, and we will go into the secret podcast and I'll share how I use my seniority to heal from a heart failure and stroke in 1 year, and how I've used my seniority to attract, make, whatever you want to call, tens of millions of dollars over the years. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.